Here, Panda. Merry Christmas!
Wow, Grizz, thank you so much!
Very thoughtful, Grizz.
The sun was shining brightly over the city that Christmas morning, but inside a small, quiet cave beneath the trees, the three bear brothers were facing a problem that none of them could solve with food, games, or even a little Christmas magic. Grizzly, Panda, and Ice Bear had planned the perfect Christmas party, but when the morning arrived, they discovered that almost nobody was coming. The decorations were ready, the food was prepared, and a beautiful little Christmas tree stood proudly in the center of their home, yet the cave felt strangely empty. Grizzly tried to stay cheerful, Panda kept checking his phone, and Ice Bear quietly looked at the untouched plates. None of them knew that before the day ended, their lonely Christmas would turn into something they would remember forever. If you believe that kindness can give people a second chance and that even a small act of love can change someone's day, please like this story, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to English Cartoon Stories for more heartwarming adventures. The day had begun with excitement. Grizzly had spent hours decorating the cave with colorful lights, paper snowflakes, shiny ornaments, and a giant handmade star. He had even tried to make the cave look like a real Christmas wonderland. Panda had prepared a long list of Christmas party games, including a gift exchange, a drawing competition, musical chairs, and a contest to see who could build the funniest snow bear. Ice Bear had taken responsibility for the food. He had prepared cookies, warm soup, sandwiches, cakes, and a huge pile of snacks. Everything looked perfect. Grizzly was convinced that their Christmas party would be the biggest celebration of the year. He imagined the cave filled with friends laughing, eating, dancing, and taking pictures. Panda imagined himself sitting beside everyone while Christmas music played in the background. Ice Bear simply wanted everyone to have enough food. For the three brothers, Christmas was never about expensive gifts. It was about being together. But there was one problem. Nobody arrived. At first, Grizzly laughed and told himself that everyone was simply late. He checked the clock and continued arranging the chairs. Panda looked at his phone again and again, hoping for messages. Ice Bear quietly placed another plate of cookies on the table. An hour passed. Then another. The Christmas lights continued blinking, the music continued playing, and the food slowly became cold. Grizzly's smile disappeared. He tried to hide his disappointment, but Panda could see it. The three brothers sat together near the Christmas tree, surrounded by decorations that suddenly seemed far too bright for such a quiet room. Panda finally looked at the empty chairs and felt his heart sink. He wondered if they had done something wrong. Maybe their party wasn't good enough. Maybe nobody wanted to spend Christmas with them. Maybe everyone had better plans. Grizzly tried to cheer them up by suggesting they eat everything themselves, but even his favorite food didn't make him happy. Ice Bear quietly turned off some of the lights to make the cave feel less empty. Then, just as the brothers were about to give up on the party, they heard a faint sound outside. It was a tiny cry. Grizzly immediately stood up. Panda followed him. Ice Bear grabbed a warm blanket. They walked outside into the bright winter afternoon. Snow covered the ground, sparkling under the sunlight. The forest looked peaceful, almost magical. But behind a large tree, they discovered something unexpected. A small rabbit was sitting alone in the snow. The little rabbit looked frightened and exhausted. One of its ears was covered with snow, and it was shivering badly. Beside it was a tiny red scarf that looked far too thin to protect it from the cold. The three brothers immediately forgot about their empty party. Grizzly carefully approached the rabbit. Panda wrapped the blanket around it, while Ice Bear gently carried it back toward the cave. The rabbit didn't resist. It was too tired. Inside the warm cave, the brothers placed the little rabbit near the fireplace. Ice Bear prepared warm soup while Panda dried its fur. Grizzly brought out a plate of cookies. Slowly, the rabbit began to feel safe. After some time, the brothers discovered that the rabbit had become separated from its family while following Christmas lights through the forest. It had searched for them all morning but couldn't find the way back. Grizzly felt terrible for the little creature. Christmas was supposed to be a happy day, yet this little rabbit had spent it alone in the freezing forest. The three brothers decided they would help. They put on their warmest clothes and stepped outside again. The sun was still shining, making the snowy forest look beautiful. Instead of searching for their own missing party guests, they began searching for the rabbit's family. They followed tiny footprints through the snow. The trail disappeared near a frozen stream. Panda searched one side while Grizzly searched the other. Ice Bear carefully examined the ground and noticed something important: another set of rabbit footprints. They followed them deeper into the forest. The path became difficult. Snow covered the ground, branches blocked their way, and the afternoon light slowly began to fade. Grizzly started to worry that they might never find the family before night arrived. Then they heard something. A distant rustling sound. They moved toward it and discovered a group of rabbits gathered beneath a large tree. The little rabbit immediately became excited. Its family had been searching for it. The reunion was beautiful. The little rabbit ran toward its family, and the other rabbits surrounded it with relief. Grizzly, Panda, and Ice Bear watched quietly from a distance, smiling. For the first time that day, the brothers didn't care that their own party had been empty. They had helped someone find home. But then something unexpected happened. One of the rabbits noticed the Christmas decorations still hanging from the bears' backpacks. Another rabbit carried a small red berry branch. Soon the entire group began following the brothers back toward the cave. The bears had no idea what was happening. When they reached the cave, Grizzly stopped in surprise. More animals were arriving. The rabbits came first. Then squirrels. Then birds. Then several forest animals who had heard about the three bears helping the lost rabbit. One by one, they entered the cave. Suddenly, the empty Christmas party wasn't empty anymore. The cave filled with laughter, movement, and warmth. Panda couldn't believe what he was seeing. Grizzly looked around at the crowded room and smiled so widely that his cheeks hurt. Ice Bear immediately returned to the kitchen because he knew there would now be many hungry guests. The Christmas party became something completely different from what they had planned. There were no expensive presents. There was no perfect schedule. There wasn't even enough food at first. But everyone shared. The rabbits brought berries. The squirrels brought nuts. The birds brought colorful feathers for decorations. One little squirrel even brought a tiny wooden ornament that it had made itself. Panda organized games. Grizzly started dancing. Ice Bear prepared more food. The cave became brighter with every passing minute. As the afternoon turned into evening, sunlight streamed through the trees outside, filling the snowy forest with golden light. Inside the cave, the Christmas tree glowed warmly. The brothers finally understood something important. They had spent the entire morning worrying about how many people would come to their party. But Christmas had never been about counting guests. It was about making someone feel welcome. The little rabbit sat beside its family, eating cookies with happiness in its eyes. Grizzly watched them and realized that the best part of the day had happened when the three brothers stopped thinking about themselves. Later that evening, Panda looked at the decorations and noticed the giant star at the top of the tree. It was slightly crooked. Earlier, he had wanted to fix it. Now he didn't. Because somehow, the crooked star looked perfect. Grizzly sat beside his brothers, surrounded by new friends. Ice Bear handed everyone warm food. Panda took a picture of the entire group. It was the most beautiful Christmas photograph they had ever taken. Not because everything looked perfect. Because everyone in the picture belonged. The brothers had started the day feeling forgotten, but they ended it surrounded by people and animals who had been touched by their kindness. As the stars appeared in the night sky, the forest became quiet again. The party slowly came to an end. The rabbits returned home, the squirrels disappeared into the trees, and the birds flew back to their nests. The cave became peaceful. But this time, it didn't feel empty. Grizzly, Panda, and Ice Bear sat together beneath the Christmas tree. They were tired. The food was almost gone. The decorations were messy. The floor was covered with crumbs. And everyone was smiling. Grizzly looked at his brothers and realized that this had been the best Christmas they had ever experienced. Not because their original plan had worked. Because their plan had failed. And that failure had given them the chance to do something far more meaningful. They had learned that sometimes life doesn't give us the celebration we expect. Sometimes the people we are waiting for don't arrive. Sometimes our plans fall apart, and we feel forgotten or alone. But those unexpected moments can open the door to something beautiful. A stranger can become a friend. A lonely heart can find a home. And one small act of kindness can create a chain of happiness that reaches farther than we ever imagined. The next morning, sunlight filled the forest once again. Grizzly woke up beneath a pile of Christmas blankets. Panda was still sleeping beside the tree, and Ice Bear was already preparing breakfast. Outside the cave, the snow sparkled in the morning light. And hanging on the tree was the little wooden ornament the squirrel had given them. It was simple. It wasn't expensive. But to the three brothers, it was priceless. Because it reminded them of the Christmas when they learned that the greatest gift isn't something wrapped in paper. The greatest gift is making someone feel that they are not alone. And from that Christmas onward, Grizzly, Panda, and Ice Bear never worried about having the biggest party again. They simply left one extra chair at the table. Just in case someone needed a place to belong. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness can make someone's darkest day brighter, please like the video, share it with your friends and subscribe to English Cartoon Stories. Your support helps us bring more emotional and inspiring stories to you. And before the story ends, please comment one word below: kindness, red heart if you believe that a small act of kindness can change someone's life. Because sometimes, the person who needs a little kindness isn't looking for a miracle. They are simply looking for someone to leave one chair open for them. And on that beautiful Christmas morning, three bear brothers discovered that when you make room in your heart for someone else, you may discover that your own heart feels less empty too.